I'll never forget that night I was driving home alone from my friend's house. It was really late, probably after midnight, and I was on the highway heading back to my apartment. There weren't a lot of other cars out that time of night. After about 10 minutes, I noticed headlights behind me. I didn't think much of it at first, but soon I realized the car was getting closer. I sped up a little, but the car sped up too, staying right on my tail. I started to freak out. Who was this person and why were they riding my bumper? I took the next exit to try to lose them. The car followed. Now I was really scared. I drove through random neighborhoods, making weird turns, but the car stuck with me the whole time. Whenever I slowed down, they slowed down. Whenever I turned, they turned. It was like this person knew exactly where I was going. My hands were shaking as I grabbed my phone to call 911. "Hello, I'm driving alone at night and there's someone following me." I told the operator the make and model of the car behind me. The operator was super calm and said the police were on their way. Then she asked me if I could see enough to get the license plate number to check who the car was registered to. I was lucky enough to be able to read them when the plate lit up when I pushed the brakes on my own car. I gave it to her and waited. A minute later, the operator came back and apologized, but said the car following me was registered under my name. I was shocked and told her that was impossible since I was driving my Toyota and the car behind me was a Honda. The operator paused and then asked if I had ever reported my plates as stolen. That's when I remembered that just last week, I had realized my plates were missing from my car in the parking garage at work. I had reported them stolen and ordered new ones. I explained this to the operator, and she said that must be why the plates came back as registered to me. Whoever was following me must have stolen my old plates and put them on their car. Now I was really freaked out that this person had my plates and was specifically targeting me. She told me to pull over at a gas station to wait for the police and see if the car would pass. As I slowed to exit, the car moved over behind me to follow. I started yelling into the phone that this person was definitely following me. At the gas station, the car pulled in and parked a few spots away. I couldn't see who was driving because the windows were tinted. The operator said the police were almost there and told me to stay locked in my vehicle. My heart was racing as I watched the dark car just sit there. Suddenly, the headlights turned back on and it started slowly pulling up beside me. I let out a scream as the window rolled down. Inside was a middle-aged man in a suit. He looked totally normal. In a calm voice, he said, "Hello, my name is Mr. Stevens. I apologize for frightening you, but I've been assigned by the district attorney's office to be your protective escort." I was so confused and freaked out that I barely processed what he said. The police arrived right then and took over. They questioned Mr. Stevens and looked at his ID. Apparently, he checked out as some sort of investigator. He explained again that the district attorney's office sent him because of death threats I'd been receiving. I said I never received any death threats. The police asked if I had any stalkers or knew why someone would want to harm me. I tried to rack my brain but couldn't think of any reason. The investigator said the threats had come anonymously and mentioned harming me if I drove alone at night. When he saw me driving home alone from my friend's house, he grew concerned and tailed me to keep an eye on things. I explained how I had freaked out, not knowing who he was. The police took down all my information and said I could file a complaint if I wanted. Mr. Stevens apologized again for scaring me, but said he was just trying to do his job and keep me safe. In the end, no charges were filed against him. I asked the police and district attorney for more information about the supposed death threats. They couldn't tell me much since it was an open investigation. They said I'd be assigned a new escort if I had to drive alone again. I still had no clue why anyone would be threatening me or who that creepy Mr. Stevens guy really was. Nothing added up. When I got home, I immediately had all my locks changed and installed a security system. I kept checking over my shoulder for weeks after, worried someone was still following me. I tried to find out more about the supposed threats and investigation, but hit dead ends everywhere. It was like the whole thing never happened. The police had no record of my assigned escort or any case involving me. When I drove by Mr. Stevens' address, it was just an abandoned building. To this day, I have no idea who was actually stalking me that night or why I was targeted. I always drive with others now and am super paranoid. But sometimes I still see that dark car, with tinted windows parked just down the street from my apartment, and I can't help but feel like I'm being watched, waiting for the day whoever is after me decides to finally make their move. I'll never know if Mr. Stevens was trying to protect me or hunt me. The not knowing is the creepiest part. I never get scam calls. At least I didn't used to. I'm too paranoid and skeptical to fall for anything over the phone from a stranger. But last Tuesday evening, I got a call that shook me to my core. One I can't stop thinking about since. It started out normal enough. I was making dinner when my cell lit up with an unknown number. I almost sent it to voicemail when I decided to answer out of bored curiosity. "Hello?" I said tentatively. A robotic voice responded, "This is Janice with the Internal Revenue Service. I am calling to notify you that we have detected fraudulent activity on your Social Security number." I rolled my eyes. Clearly a scam trying to get my personal info. "Yeah, nice try," I scoffed. "I'm not giving you any information." I expected the person to hang up or launch into demands for money, but they just breathed softly on the line. I frowned in confusion. Hello?" I said after a few seconds. "Are you still there?" Finally, a voice spoke, no longer robotic or recorded. It was a man, his tone hushed and raspy. "Do not take this call lightly, Grant. We know more about you than you realize." A cold chill ran through me. How did they know my name? I never gave it. "Who is this?" I demanded, trying to keep the trembling out of my voice. "What do you want?" "We've been watching you closely," the man continued ominously. "Your facade of normalcy has cracks. Keep pushing boundaries and we'll be forced to take action." Suddenly I wasn't hungry anymore. I gripped the counter for support, my hands clammy. "Tell me what this is about," I said, failing to mask my panic. "Watching me how?" He just made a faint, tisking sound. "We all wear masks, Grant. Even you. Strip the mask away and the rot is there underneath. You can't outrun your true nature." I struggled to respond, utterly baffled and disturbed by the bizarre threats. Before I could get any words out, he whispered, "We'll be in touch," and hung up abruptly. I stood there shaking, holding the silent phone against my ear in shock. After a few terrified minutes, I got angry. It had to be some twisted idea of a prank call. I wouldn't let this creep get in my head. I tried to shrug it off and continue my evening, but I felt irrationally jumpy and nervous, checking the locks excessively. I decided to head to bed early, exhausted from the adrenaline rush. I'll report the call to the police tomorrow so they can track the number. As I got in bed, my phone buzzed with a text notification. My stomach dropped when I read it. "Sleep soundly, Grant. You're so peaceful in slumber. Can't hide from us even in dreams." Attached was a photo of me, asleep in this very bed. I shot up in a panic, scanning the dark corners of my room. How had this psycho taken pictures of me sleeping? I called the police right away to report the harassment. Over the next week, the threats from this man continued to escalate. More texts with disturbing hidden camera footage no one should have. Calls in the middle of the night telling me all my sins were catching up with me. The police were never able to trace the number. No cameras or intruders were found in my home, but I barely slept imagining this malicious stalker watching my every move. He knew things about my past no one else did, shameful secrets I'd buried long ago. His last message was what finally broke me. "You can't hide from judgment, Grant. I speak for the damned, and you will join our ranks soon enough." I fled that night, driving aimlessly in paranoia that I was still being followed. Eventually, I ended up in a motel far from everything I knew, using fake identification. I've been hiding here ever since, a shell of the person I once was. I still don't understand what this man wants or why he targeted me. I don't know if he's just a garden-variety psycho or something worse. But his inexplicable knowledge of my most closely guarded flaws makes me think he sees into the depths of my soul in ways no one else can. Maybe that's the most terrifying part in all this. The gnawing sense that I'm being judged for my most shameful sins by forces I cannot see or stop. I recall his words about masks and rot, and know at my core he's right. I can change names and locations, but I cannot escape the cold eyes upon me that see past any facade into the darkness I try desperately to conceal. He knows what I truly am under the polite exterior I show the world. There is nowhere to run where that fact doesn't haunt me. So I wait in fearful limbo for the day judgment comes for me at last. For the moment the damned come to collect what I owe for the lies and masks. The day my fragile illusion of humanity finally shatters, and I'm left with nothing but the ugliness and decay I tried so hard to outrun. When I saw the ad seeking a live-in nanny for a wealthy family, it seemed too good to be true. Room, board, and a generous salary are all provided. The only catch was relocating halfway across the country to their sprawling estate. But I eagerly accepted, thinking this was my chance to finally get my life on track. If only I had known then what secrets lurked within those mansion walls. I arrived full of excitement and optimism, eager to meet my new charges. The family, CEO dad, stay-at-home mom, 5-year-old twin girls, and an 8-year-old boy, welcomed me with open arms. The kids showed me around their luxurious home, with its infinity pool, home theater, and even a small petting zoo on the grounds. On the surface, they seemed like the perfect family, full of warmth and joy. The parents gave me a glowing report about how creative, intelligent, and well-behaved their children were. But as the days went on, small cracks in that facade began to show. My unease started when I first had to discipline the twins for biting and hair-pulling. Their parents insisted it was just normal squabbling, but the girls had a strange viciousness to their fighting that unsettled me. Around the same time, neighborhood pets started disappearing. The family blamed coyotes, but I had my doubts. The twins' games also became increasingly disturbing. One day I walked in on them drowning Polly Pockets in a bucket of dirty pool water. They said they wanted to see what would happen if the dolls couldn't breathe. When I sternly stopped them, their vacant stare sent chills down my spine. Soon the boy began exhibiting cruel behaviors too. I caught him out back, smiling calmly as he slowly plucked the wings off a butterfly. In his room he kept empty hamster cages, saying they had escaped. At night I heard screams and cries, which the family blamed on night terrors. The longer I stayed, the more ominous incidents piled up. The creepy drawings, the mutilated squirrels in the yard, the hidden boxes of dead insects under beds. When I tried gently raising concerns with the parents, they accused me of overreacting and exaggerating. One night the sense of dread came to a head. I awoke to blood-curdling howls coming from the twins' room down the hall. I burst in to find them standing calmly in the middle of the floor, blood pooling at their bare feet. Their nightgowns and hands were soaked red too. When I demanded to know what happened, one girl answered serenely, "We had to make the bad squirrels stop eating our birdseed." Before I could react, they climbed back into their gore-stained beds, leaving gruesome footprints behind. Certain something was seriously wrong with these children. I told their parents I'd be quitting immediately for the safety of everyone involved. Their father flew into a terrifying rage, screaming threats if I tried to abandon my family. I fled to my room and locked the door only to find my luggage slashed open. I snuck out that night when the house was dark, taking only the clothes on my back. At the bottom of the driveway, the twins stood watching me, hand in hand and unblinking. They raised their free hands in synchronized, stiff waves, showing dark stains. I sped off towards the nearest motel, checking frequently for any sign of pursuit. For days I hid out, afraid to call the police for fear of retaliation by the powerful father. Eventually I took a train home, leaving everything behind just to escape that house of horrors. I've started a new quiet life now far away, but I still have nightmares about those children who hid such depravity behind cherubic faces. The media calls them missing, but I fear the truth is much more sinister. People scoff when I say demons lurked within those mansion walls, but I know unspeakable evil dwelled in that house masquerading as innocence. It eats away at my soul that I'll never be able to prove it. Wherever those children are, I pray their darkness has not yet fully bloomed.